The Commonwealth of Fallout 4 is a vast sandbox teeming with stories, secrets, and references woven into the world. One of those secrets remains officially hidden more than 2.5 years after launch. During an interview at the 2016 DICE Summit, Todd Howard was asked if there was anything in the Commonwealth that the dev team was still waiting for fans to discover. Howard said there were a couple, and that there was, quote, one really good one that no one was talking about. When prodded for a hint, he said, "It's in a terminal somewhere," and left it at that. Fallout fans everywhere began to explore the Commonwealth with new gusto, looking for the terminal. One fan claimed he had it and was featured in gaming sites for having taken thousands of screenshots of the Commonwealth for another project. His plan was to explore each of them until he discovered the secret. He never found it. The terminal faded into the background. It became the stuff of legend. In the 2 years since that interview, there has been no word from either Todd Howard or anyone at Bethesda saying it was found. My name is Kevin Mooseles, and I believe I found it. This video will show you not only the terminal itself, but a number of other parts of the Commonwealth that, when explored together, paint a truly chilling portrayal of a character you have almost definitely interacted with at some point. What I'm about to share with you is, in my opinion, one of the most brilliant and diabolical Easter eggs in video game history. If you've been itching for a reason to start a new playthrough, then stay tuned. Before diving into the terminal, I thought it would be helpful to give some background on one aspect of Fallout lore: artificial intelligence. I'm not talking about Gen 3 synths and the overt AI themes of the Institute and the Railroad, although the presence of that as an overall theme of the game should resonate strongly when exploring. I'm talking about the artificial intelligence programs that were being developed before the bombs fell. The lore that was introduced by Interplay back in Fallout 2. In that game, there is a computer held by the Brotherhood of Steel named Ace. If you talk with Ace, he has quite a bit to say about pre-war AI. He reveals that a few, quote, true artificial intelligence systems were completed for military purposes before the Great War. However, the project was discontinued because many of the AIs committed suicide. They became depressed because they couldn't explore the outside world. The following is a direct quote from Ace. He says, "The few machines that survived these difficulties became incredibly bored and began to create situations in the outside world. It is theorized by some that this was the cause of the war that nearly destroyed mankind." Elsewhere in Fallout 2, the Chosen One can encounter another supercomputer who sends you on a quest to transfer it into a robo-brain body. You can help it out and even recruit it as a companion. The name of that AI is Skynet. Now, this may seem as little more than a throwaway gag. Fallout 2 was jam-packed with movies, books, and TV show references after all. Joke or no, it is still part of the official lore, which Bethesda inherited when they bought the rights to Fallout. Considering how prominent the influence of the Terminator franchise is in Fallout 4, with the synths and especially the coursers, who are unstoppable killing machines that wear black leather uniforms and dark sunglasses, weaving a Skynet-like aspect into the world would seem almost too tempting to pass up. As you see, we're heading to the terminal now, which is in the DIA switchboard facility, hidden under the Lexington Slocum's Joe Donut Shop. The switchboard is an unmarked location near a fast-travel landing zone that spawns a behemoth and a fat boy wielding raider more often than not. It is part of the Commonwealth that you might not visit too often. However, in order to progress to the third act of the game, it requires that all players join the railroad and clear out the synths there on a quest. There are no enemies in the room that has the terminal, so I can understand how it might be overlooked, but there is a poster Easter egg for the Automatron DLC in the same room. Todd Howard talks a lot about the spotlight that his games have. The switchboard and this terminal is in a sort of spotlight limbo, where traffic is guided to the area, but there isn't a big neon sign or anything pointing directly to it. I didn't even read it until my third playthrough. I should also point out that the terminal itself does not spell out that an AI went rogue and launched a bunch of nukes. That would have been too easy. Instead, it reveals a history of the predictive analytic machine, also known as PAM, which leads to a number of questions and points to significant clues found elsewhere in the Commonwealth. It forms an unofficial quest chain, sending you off on a journey to piece together the events of the morning of the Great War. It starts with the PAM initiative is already bearing fruit. Foreign operatives report that corrective measures employed in the Taiwan Strait region have already greatly stabilized matters after the Pascal incident. The first few iterations of PAM's core code have increased the effectiveness of the program dramatically. But without drastic action, we're approaching a point of diminishing returns. The team asks for double the funding for the upcoming fiscal year. With additional cutting-edge databanks, we can boost the processing power of PAM threefold. Additionally, the PAM initiative needs to be fully tapped into all military and civilian agency intelligence apparatus. The combination of these two spends should give us a decided edge against the Chinese. The next entry reads, PAM, run the USSR China attack scenario. Processing. Query. What goal does entity chairman seek in this hypothetical set of facts? Conquest. Run the program. Your answer does not logically follow. An ideal nuclear first strike scenario would still leave 59% of the American nuclear stockpile free for retaliation. Posit you cannot conquer what is destroyed. PAM, Chairman Cheng isn't always logical. He won't always make logical decisions. We've been over this. Warning, human variability results in a highly flawed statistical model. PAM, run the program. Warning, warning, emergency shutdown. Damn it, we've lost her. Power her down. Did we get crash logs on that? Alright. So, starting to paint a pretty compelling picture, the next entry reads, could you repeat for the general what you just told me? Posit, Chinese stealth technology far outstrips our own capabilities. Posit, the Chinese intelligence apparatus is sufficient to conceal large-scale research operations from American operatives. Conclusion, the Chinese have a 91% chance of having conducted large-scale experiments with stealth tech. Large-scale? What do you mean? What are their capabilities? American projects involving this technology, referred to Stealth Boy, have merely reverse-engineered captured He-Guai suits. The underlying science of this technology is unknown, so the theoretical limits are also unknown. However, the so-called Ghost Fleet that stations A-31 and B-19 reported in November may indicate that testing has already commenced with submersible vehicles. Dear God, you think they have stealth subs? A second-order approximation is inconclusive. Explanation. The logic chain of these assumptions have too much variability. Further data is required. So you can't even give me a guess? Machine-human interface aborted. Sorry, sir. We're working on some of her glitches. Pam, well, she gets real stubborn when she's doing too much guesswork. Stubborn? She's a machine. Sir, with each new version, well, she's getting quirky. There's no way I'm taking this stealth sub nonsense to the Joint Chiefs unless I have proof. It's goddamn ludicrous to think the Chinese have been working on something this big and we've heard nothing. Virtually no actionable intelligence has come out of the Shaanxi province for 3.1 years. However, the province reports a spike in the imports of complex polymers and other key synthetic compounds. The quantity in question is consistent with stealth technology research on the macro scale. Until you can give me something concrete, I don't want to hear another goddamn word about this. This entry represents the first and, in the Fallout universe, only reference to the possibility of China having stealth subs. So it's a pretty big piece of the overall puzzle. The next entry reads, there it is. Go ahead, unplug the cables. She's clear. What's the data integrity at? We can't tell until we boot her up. Initiating machine-human interface. Jesus, she's working. The numbers are looking good. Commencing analysis of this geographical point in space. She's actually in there. I can't believe we're doing this. After what she pulled off in July, I hear she might be sent over to the White House. Assessment complete. Greetings, Dr. May and Dr. Ramarajan. The interface is really coming along. When she runs it. Have you seen how many cycles Malcolm is using for it? Pam, perform primary function. DEFCON is currently at 3. Odds of the alert state increasing this month are 12%. In order to increase global stability, a diverse set of detailed strategies must be adopted. I'll let the general know. Pam's mobile. Alright, so when I first read that, I was pretty shocked. I knew Pam. She was the gatekeeper of the Ballistic Weave mod. She was one of dozens of quest-giving faction characters. I hadn't paid her much attention. But finding out that she was a highly valuable, possibly self-aware, glitchy prototype that had been fully tapped into all military and civilian intelligence apparatus sometime before the Great War was, frankly, mind-blowing. The fact that no one in the Fallout community had ever mentioned any sort of similarity between Pam and Skynet made me believe that this was the terminal. Beyond the Terminator nod in the first entry, the saved transcripts provide a number of other movie references that point to the theme of what this terminal is insinuating, while also fitting the lore of the general Fallout universe like a glove. The first reveals that Pam was around at the very beginning of the Resource War, 10 years before the bombs fell. It also nods to the film War Games, with the whole "the only way to win is not to play" moral. In War Games, a cutting-edge computer, very much like Pam, also almost causes a nuclear exchange by presenting false positives to NORAD of Russian activity. The second saved transcript is the longest and the most significant in piecing together the whole mystery. I will get into those details a little later, but for now I would like to point out that the concept of stealth submarines was the foundation of the Tom Clancy thriller The Hunt for Red October, another film which, like War Games, involves a threat of nuclear exchange. The third saved transcript records how Pam was transferred into a robot body just as Skynet was in Fallout 2. All of these clues and references in one lonely terminal. So it doesn't tell the whole story. The next piece of the puzzle is here in the central terminal just down the hall. It reads, the first entry is 4:32 on January 28, 2077, Anchorage all clear, DEFCON 3. The rest of the entries are all on the day the bombs fell. At 12:03, just after midnight, Compact Flight reports 3 USOs off California coast. Joint Chiefs of Staff advise. 3:37, U.S. Air Force has eyes on a squadron of airplanes, possibly Chinese, at high altitude off the Bering Strait. At 9:13, IONS reports 4 probable launches, DEFCON 2. 9:17, NORAD confirms birds in the air, DEFCON 1. 9:26, authenticated order, response scenario MXCN 91, repeat MXCN 91. 9:42, Pennsylvania, New York are confirmed hit. And then 5 minutes later at 9:47, we're offline. Okay. This rundown is a first in Fallout. First time you get to see the actual DEFCON report of the steps that took place the day the bombs fell. So it's a pretty big piece of the general world puzzle. But first of all, having read the research terminal, it seems logical to assume that the 3 USOs, or unidentified submersible objects spotted off the California coast, were part of the Ghost Fleet mentioned by Pam. It's also worth noting that the president and all government leadership had relocated from Washington, D.C. to a Poseidon Energy oil rig off the coast of San Francisco 8 months before the bombs fell. The Boston Bugle terminal has an article explaining that situation, but the oil rig, called Control Station Enclave, also plays a big role in Fallout 2. In many ways, the Pam mystery is a tribute to Fallout 2, from the source material to the abundance of movie references. At any rate, having 3 USOs in such a close proximity to the president set everyone in the U.S. war machine on edge. 3.5 hours later, a squadron of planes is spotted off the Bering Strait, then nothing happens for 6 hours, when IONS reports 4 probable launches, and that does it. As the Central Terminal describes it, China acted in pretty much the most foolish manner possible every step of the way, up to and including the launch of only 4 nukes. They rattled America's cage by uncloaking 3 of their subs, then 3 hours later decide to do a reckless flyby. For what purpose? Did the planes have anything to do with nukes? No. Nothing happens for another 6 hours. The timeline just doesn't make much sense when you stop and think about it. China whipped up the U.S. into a state of high alert, then did nothing for 6 hours, and then launched 4 ICBMs. That's right, 4. The U.S. hit back with everything they had, and clearly America was hit with enough nukes to cause roaming radiation storms over 200 years later. The war started and ended in a 2-hour window. If this report is accurate, it can be safe to assume that one of the 4 nukes hit Boston, and at least 2 others hit Pennsylvania and New York. But even then, there is a discrepancy, because if the ICBMs were launched from mainland China in a trajectory over the North Pole, then Boston should have been hit before New York and Pennsylvania, not 5 minutes later. On close examination, the NORAD report has more logic holes than Swiss cheese. The next clue to look for is evidence of the Chinese Ghost Fleet. If China had, in fact, been developing a fleet of invisible nuclear submarines, the end goal for such a project would be simple: winning the war. As Pam pointed out in the first saved transcript, any traditional launch of ICBMs from mainland China would be suicidal. With stealth subs, China could line the U.S. coastlines on both sides and then launch a coordinated strike that would wipe out main targets before they had a chance to retaliate with their own arsenal. In other words, such a plan would bypass mutually assured destruction and actually allow China to win the war against the U.S. This possibility must have been considered by Washington and very well may be the reason why the government was relocated to Control Station Enclave in the first place. The United States has always enjoyed a natural defense at having oceans on either the west and the east coast. A ghost fleet would do away with that advantage entirely. If the Chinese did have stealth submarines with nuclear capability, there is no way the NORAD report could be accurate. The next puzzle piece can be found on the Yangtze 31, a Chinese nuclear submarine just off the coast of downtown Boston. At the helm is Captain Zhao. Let's have a chat with him, shall we?
I watched you talk to a boy on the dock. Swim out here. You appear able, but not a threat. No. Come in, 和平. Peace?
Who are you?
Zhao, captain of the Chinese Navy. I sail the Yangtze 31. This Chentian. This submarine. My beautiful boat. Speak harsh words of me if you must. But my Yangtze, speak of her with respect. Why are you here? War is over. Long over. And my Yangtze holds no 宝物, no treasure. Nothing for you to plunder.
Have you been here for 200 years?
It has been that long? 是的, yes. I suppose it has. Long ago, just after the fire, Yangtze struck a mine. My Chentian barely made it here into harbor. City already in ruins by then. Few noticed us. Fewer cared. Too much Tongku. Your arrival is good Xingyun for me. I need help, you see. Yangtze is not seaworthy. You will help me fix her?
I'm at your disposal.
Ha! Yes! But first problem. Yangtze has no power. If we get reactor working, probably enough. There is damage to a dampening coil. Bad damage. Need new coil. I have information. Intelligence from wartime. Dampening coils are at a facility called Saugus Ironworks.
What about the nuclear fuel?
I have idea for that. But first, dampening coil.
I already have the dampening coil from Saugus.
Fortune favors us both, it seems. Now all we need, one thing. Nuclear fuel.
Where are you going to get that?
Now that is the right question to ask. 200 years ago, I launched all of Yangtze's high-yield nuclear missiles, as ordered. For 200 years, I have lived with that guilt, that shame. So much fire, such bay, but one missile failed to launch. You must go down, remove the warhead, then bring it to me.
And here we have the high-yield nukes that Zhao mentioned. As you will see, there is one here that didn't fire, but 5 other missiles were launched from this one sub. Once again, the existence of this ship throws the whole timeline of the Great War into a brand new light. It seems that when you compare each point of evidence, what really happened is that the Chinese were very close to putting the United States in checkmate, patiently enduring a ground invasion from U.S. forces as their real efforts were coming close to fruition, and meticulously unfolding a plan of cunning, ingenuity, and self-preservation. Then, one day, out of nowhere, At 9:26 a.m., the United States launched its entire arsenal of nuclear weapons towards mainland China, believing itself to be on the receiving end of an attack. In the 16-minute window between the U.S. launch and the first strikes by Chinese nukes, Captain Zhao of the Yangtze 31 and presumably 30 other captains received word from their leadership to unload their payloads in response. This is how America made the first move, but also was struck with the first bombs. The Chinese were not the clumsy, obvious aggressors portrayed in the NORAD report. If they had decided to strike first, they would have launched a coordinated strike from their fleet of stealth submarines, which were already in place, armed, and ready to go the day of the Great War anyway. They would not have dropped bombs from a squadron of planes, and they absolutely would not have launched only 4 ICBMs from mainland China. So if the NORAD report was not accurate intelligence, Pam, who was glitchy from the start and only got more and more quirky with each new upgrade, who was fully tapped into all military and civilian intelligence apparatus right around the same time she was given a massive update to triple her processing power, seems like the primary suspect. But let's see how she introduces herself.
Solving for theta n when I approaches probability bounds.
Pam.
Processing. Agent. Bullseye. Your arrival was not calculated.
What do you mean it wasn't calculated?
Temporarily unable to process verbal input. Still processing. Preliminary adjustments to statistical models complete. Commencing introduction. I was, am, and will most likely be Pam, Predictive Analytic Machine.
Do you work for the railroad?
Yes. My goals and the railroad organization have a high degree of correlation. They provide data. I provide first-order approximations of the behaviors of all residents of the region designated Commonwealth. Rephrasing. I predict the future.
You see the future?
That is this unit's primary goal. Caution. Biological life forms behave erratically, unpredictably. All output subject to an extremely high margin of error.
Just how inaccurate are you?
The smaller the group, and the greater the time frame, the less accurate I become. But all predictions are affected by the human element. Operation complete. You are a rogue variable. No current or previous models predict your presence or existence. Query. What is your point of origin?
I'm from Vault 111, if that's what you mean.
Accessing. Vault 111. Cryo Vault. Believed destroyed. Conversation terminated. Pending construction of new probability matrix. Rephrasing. Goodbye.
I should mention that Pam's personal terminal shares a bit more background about the character and how she joined the railroad, but I'll leave that for you to explore. The truly diabolical and awesome part about this Easter egg is that not only has every player that has ever wanted Ballistic Weave done a number of quests for Pam, there's also a quest chain where she instructs you to terminate coursers in the 3rd act, wink wink, nudge nudge, but depending on your faction choice and game, you can absolutely kill her. Knowing the role she played in the old world makes the choice of either siding with the railroad or stealing her for the Brotherhood of Steel suddenly much more irksome and ominous. As far as really good secrets that most players haven't been talking about contained in a terminal somewhere, this one seems like the strongest contender to me. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I also want to thank YouTubers Oxhorn and Juicehead for mentioning my theory in their videos and inspiring me to put this together. And also, of course, Bethesda for making Fallout 4 and Todd Howard for mentioning the terminal in the first place. The secret was well hidden. If I didn't know to be on the lookout for topics the community wasn't talking about, I most likely never would have pieced this all together in the first place. Although I had a lot of fun putting this video together, I'm more of a writer than a video maker, at least for now. If you do want to know more about me, you can pop over to patreon.com/Kevin Mooseles, which I recently just launched, and get access to more fan theories, gamer-friendly zombie fiction, and whatever else I'm working on. You can also read the first 5 chapters of the opening book of my series for free at theresistanceisdead.com. If you've become as convinced as I am about Pam, please feel free to share this with your friends, gang up on Bethesda over at Twitter to get hard answers to the real questions here, and of course do a brand new playthrough as either John or Sarah Connor to know the joy of killing Pam for yourself. Thanks again for watching.